to be here again.
We're glad that you asked to welcome to the show.
Thanks. Nice to be here again.
We're glad that you asked for this time for the State of the Business Address. We look forward to hearing
I asked for this time?
Well, from what we understand. We're happy to have you, though.
Oh. If you don't want me, I'm...
Oh, no, please.
Please.
Don't let Kevin say anything that might make you leave. I'll try and make sure that doesn't happen again.
Tom will straighten that right.
Yes.
Well, I know that there's been a lot of talk, a lot of conjecture, everything. So many things have changed, from the company's name to the brand extension. This has been a very turbulent time, and I know that there has been the talk that you take a couple of steps back before you take 5 or 6 steps forward. Where do you see everything right now?
Have you gained weight?
Thank you for noticing.
But you have that.
Oh, maybe a few pounds.
Okay. Just checking. So the question was?
The question was, where does everything stand, in your opinion, right now with World Wrestling Entertainment?
State of flux. And I think, generally speaking, that's where you're going to find a lot of where we are as a company. Any company that changes as often as we do, and it has endured generations, actually, not just decades after decades, but generations, and is adapted to the times, is always in a state of flux. It has been our survival, and the reason why we have survived is because we're always in a state of flux, and that's where we are right now.
Is it, I know that with great prosperity, there oftentimes comes a comfort zone. Do you think that the company fell into a comfort zone with the great success of the late 90s and the early part of the 21st century?
I think that always happens with every company. You know, I mean, it's like you reach a certain plateau, and again, if you look back on where we began, and you'll notice, and some people say, well, this business is cyclical, and I always say, no, it's not. No more so than any other business, any other form of entertainment. But our history, when you look back on our history, I mean, we've had peaks and valleys. But when you look at it on an ongoing basis over the last 20 years, then there's a steady growth. We have peaks and we have valleys. But generally speaking, every time we have a peak, it's higher than the last one, and the valleys are not as deep. So, again, we're gonna have some flux. You can't always be right 100% of the time. No one is. Certainly, no one in entertainment is. This is not a science. It's entertainment. So, again, the batting average, which is what is really important in entertainment, and we have a very good one.
I know that with the name entertainment, Tom, comes some interesting thoughts. We were discussing where the name came from.
Yeah, obviously, the reason I started watching professional wrestling was the entertainment part. I didn't like amateur wrestling, but it was the colorful characters and actions that I saw on the screen. And some of your critics have said before that you would like to take the word wrestling out of World Wrestling Entertainment. And I'd just like to know if you'd like to answer those people,
sure.
and possibly even comment.
If I wanted to do that, why would we be World Wrestling Entertainment? I'm extremely proud of the World Wrestling in our name, extraordinarily proud of it. And to me, it sets us apart from any other entertainment company. If we were just entertainment, then we're competing with all forms of entertainment, which we do in our own way. But the word wrestling gives us a very unique position on a global basis. No one else can say that they are wrestling. Only World Wrestling Entertainment can say that. So it gives us a very unique position to be in, and thus allows us to dabble in the music world or the film world or whatever it may be that's all entertainment, but still under the guideline of World Wrestling.
We, of course, have seen, as you mentioned, unparalleled growth going back in time in the mid-'90s. There was a great deal of, I think, inter-office turmoil. There was discussion. It was time for a change, and there was need for a change, and the era of attitude was born. If you could look, what do you think the next trend will be? Where will WWE find that niche and go over the top once again and bring the masses back, some of the casual fans that have turned away?
Well, I'm sensing a Tatsumi, if you would, coming our way, and a good one. I believe there's going to be a tidal wave from an attitudinal standpoint, from a creative direction standpoint, and I think it's going to wash away a lot of our ills and wash up on the shore some brand new stars and or stars that otherwise haven't had opportunity, or stars who have and can go even higher. So I'm sensing there's this big, not necessarily a metamorphosis coming, but nonetheless a really giant change of some kind.
Do you think that one of the questions we were talking with Droz before, and Droz, I asked Droz if he could ask one question of you, what would it be? And he wanted to know what you thought the difference was, why sometimes Raw is sometimes very good, sometimes not so good, while SmackDown is consistently been good since the brand extension. Why do you think that that's been the case?
If that has been the case, and I think I'd agree with that. I don't know whether or not it's a second date thing, or you settle down, or the talent that's involved, or the writing teams, or just what. But I would suggest that that's a pretty accurate description. Sometimes Raw is off the chart good.
Right.
Sometimes it's off the chart bad, and it's like, ugh, I wish they wouldn't have done that. Whereas SmackDown has more consistency to it. I agree with that. But I don't know exactly why.
Well, can I ask you this then, on that vein, do you feel that given the fact talent here in World Wrestling Entertainment is given, let's say, a vignette or a promo to do something on either SmackDown or Raw, do you feel it's up to that talent to get over it with what they have inside to make it that good, or do you think if you're just given a piece of paper that isn't that good, it's going to come across that way either way?
Who's the onus go to? Does it go to talent? Does it go to the support staff, the writing, the producing?
Well, I think everyone shares the glory, but certainly everyone shares a bit of the blame when it doesn't go well. Stone Cold, for argument, I mean, he's probably the most demanding superstar, that I can ever recall working with. And the writing team certainly through the years has written some off-the-chart, record-breaking singles and doubles, if you use the analogy of Austin being a singer. So you have on the one hand, platinum records Austin has garnered through his own individual effort and what he could do with that material, but also with really good material to work with. I understand he was complaining about not really having good material to work with.
Very outspoken last week on the show.
So, that's Stone Cold, who's, again, like I say, the most demanding, of anyone I've ever worked with. And sometimes rightfully so. But at the same time, there's, he's reduced to simply, producing, I suppose, gold albums as opposed to platinum ones at the moment. Well, I don't know, to take your point of view, whether or not someone gets sour on the creative and can he take that and turn it into, something better. I think he can. I think Austin does have that ability. At the same time, he needs some decent material to work with too. So it's a combination of things. But it's important that everyone try to work together and try and better the product, all for the right reasons for our fans. And that's why we do everything we do.
Do you foresee making any structural changes in the writing teams?
Structural changes. There could very well be some structural changes coming. Again, I don't know exactly from whether it's a corporate standpoint, a writing standpoint, or an all-around creative and talent standpoint, but I feel this huge tidal wave coming our way, and I can't exactly put my finger on it, nor can I specifically articulate it to you at the moment. I just know it's on its way.
Do you think that some of the talent, some of the producers, some of the writers maybe even, are perhaps pressing? Are people trying too hard?
Oh, sure.
It's not for lack of effort, I know.
Right.
Can a situation come about where somebody's trying too hard?
Oh, without a doubt. And I think you'll see that more on Raw than you will on SmackDown. I think that many times there's a tendency when business is not as good as it has been, that you begin to, what we call in our business, oversell, and do the old hard sell type situation, which is going to turn more people off than it is really turning them on. And I think we need to concentrate on not, overselling, but concentrate on better stories and better action and better all-around creative and execution. And if we do that, then we'll begin to do the sell stuff again.
I know as you always have been since the birth of the internet, you've always been in tune with the feedback that you do receive from the internet. You take it all in, you process it.
I don't pay any attention to the internet at all.
Really, you don't?
Well,
I know you do. I know.
Then again, you're losing weight, but that's another story.
Hey, that's great. I know that consistently, internet fans, while they make up an arguable portion of our audience, some say bigger, some say smaller.
Very vocal nonetheless.
They are very vocal.
Right.
And there have been some areas that I think consistently, since the brand extension, since the beginning of the year really, that they've been addressing in a rather consistent fashion. I wanted to bring some of those areas up. Storylines that haven't materialized doing as well, such as the Invasion or the NWO. The fans have said, you know, we had so much hope, we had so much promise for these storylines. Where did they go wrong? Why did they not meet expectations?
Well, I think one of the interesting aspects of when you read the internet is that it seems as though everyone is a writer, everyone is a booker, as we used to call them in our business, and everyone, just like having an anus, everyone has an opinion, which is fine. I mean, it's our world. We live in it, and accept all criticism, be it negative, sometimes it is, and positive as well. And again, I think when you sometimes a little bit of knowledge is the world's worst thing. You know, so when you see things I think the anticipation level sometimes there's no way you can live up to that anticipation level, or sometimes you begin to attempt to live up to that anticipation level and you run into contractual situations which perhaps you should have seen coming, so therefore you know, oh my God, wait a minute, we're not going to be able to live up to the public expectation of this, and you bite the bullet. So I mean, I think a lot of times they're on the money, you know, in terms of their criticism, but at the same time, not always.
They don't quite have all the facts.
No, they don't, and you can't expect them to,
right.
You know, because they're given, strictly, which quite frankly is the way that we really care, because you care about someone's viewing habits and how they watch us. That's what you really care about. So if they don't think we're doing something very well, then we probably aren't.
But is there ever a night, whether it's Raw or SmackDown, where you come back and you are completely satisfied with all? Well, that's what I was going to ask. Is that even if you had 10 segments, great, that one segment is going to be the one that you're going to remember?
Sure, I'm never totally happy with anything.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I agree. Well, I mean, I understand.
And again, I think that, I've said it many times before, and people think that it's a, quote, work, but you can never do enough for our fans. And that's my point of view. If we do something well, then many times you'll see some of the more professional performers coming back from the ring, and they'll get a compliment. And they don't want that compliment.
Right.
The reason they don't want that compliment is because they know they left something out that actually could have been even better than what they gave the audience. All the audience knows is that they're thrilled with what they got. But the performer, the professional inside that performer says, yeah, I know they were thrilled, but if I could only take them to that next level. And that's what I feel, on a consistent basis, just about every night we go to work.
One of the other areas that the fans have spoken about, in fact, last week on Raw being one of the most, I think, vocal audience participation, was about the amount of gross humor in the show,
right,
with Austin being on Arn Anderson, and then the Tommy Dreamer incident with The Undertaker. Do you feel like you can, the overabundance of it, do you feel like you can draw the line, you know where the line is, sometimes you cross it? Why do things like that happen? How does all that come about? And where do we go from here with that type of humor?
Was it humor? No.
Well,
it's parts of it were.
It's shocking. Austin's thing was funny, and then Tommy Dreamer has been completely shocking audiences. And then okay, you put what we saw in the first segment of the show along with what we saw later with The Undertaker and Tommy Dreamer, and that becomes a theme for the night.
Yeah, and I think it was a cumulative effort. It was just way too much.
Yeah.
And if you had done one or the other, okay, maybe that was the right thing to do. But some of it is the cumulative effort is what you look back on, and you look back on sometimes, honestly, after these shows are over, and you say, how could I not see, that this was going to be too much? Mm-hmm. And many times, you don't have someone looking at the larger picture. They're only looking at a segment of picture, and there are 11 segments, in a Raw show. But it's the accumulation of that which the audience is looking at, for the entire night, hopefully, that we also have to have a broader view. I agree, last week's show was a little off the chart. That's not to say that we won't cross a line like that on occasion and realize the error of our ways and come back with something that's more consistent. I think this Monday's going to be off the chart.
Well, it certainly did have a lot of people talking, some negative, some positive, and I know one of the more positive aspects of last Monday's show was the return of Shawn Michaels.
Right.
48 hours after on Confidential, we learned that Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid, was dead. We didn't expect to see him again. He completely surprised us all. Where is Shawn Michaels going to fit in WWE going forward from last Monday?
I'm going to find that out from Shawn himself this Monday. Because I think HBK is dead. And I think Shawn really meant that. But there's nothing wrong with Shawn Michaels.
Right.
And the Shawn Michaels I saw last Monday was a Shawn Michaels who was very focused, a Shawn Michaels who obviously is in great condition, and firmly has his feet in solid concrete now in terms of what he wants out of life, and more specifically, what he doesn't want out of life. And I was thrilled to see him in that manner. And with the attitude that Shawn has last Monday, wow, there's no telling. Whatever he wants to do, he has the capacity of doing it. Although, again, I think he's right. I think HBK, as we knew it at one time, is dead. We're going to see a different Shawn Michaels, and in a lot of ways, perhaps an even more entertaining Shawn Michaels.
Some grow up, Tom. Some people grow up. Some people never grow up. I think maybe this is a case where Shawn may have grown up.
Are you indicating that?
No, we've had this discussion before about being able to put things in the past and being able to get beyond certain things. We've seen some changes in the roster lately with the release of Kurt Hennig and Scott Hall, where it seems like men in their 40s, for some reason, want to act like juvenile delinquents. and again, you know, now Shawn is older, he's wiser, he's married, he has a child, and you think he's finally matured?
Well, I think that, you know, the guys in their early 40s or whatever that were with us at one time, you know, I mean, I think there are many times that they fall back on the way that business used to be, and they're not in tune with the way business is today. And our talents today, by and large, are so much more professional than they have ever been. You know, I mean, let's face it. At one time, you know, our business was, you know, after the event was over, you go to the bar. Okay, let's go have a couple of drinks and relax. That's not where you find most of our guys now. Most of our guys are on the internet, or they're reading a book. Can you imagine such a thing? You know, or they're playing a video game, or whatever it may be, or sitting down having an intelligent discussion. So I mean, it's a welcome, quite frankly, point of view that we have now in terms of professionals, far more professional than they have ever been.
Do you welcome the fact that even though Shawn is more mature, he's grown up, and possibly he's more solid than he's ever been before, but maybe still has that passion and the clashes that you guys have maybe had before? Do you relish that creative juice start flowing again from Shawn to maybe get some of those arguments or discussions, so to speak,
sure.
one more time?
Some of those discussions get a little heated. From time to time, you know, and some of them have been captured on the air.
Right.
So sure. I mean, I always look forward to being challenged and pushed. You know, you really don't know. You can say, you know, certain things, but you really don't know if you really believe them until someone really shoves you up against the wall. And it's like, you really believe that or not? And you'll know inside, and so will everyone else. Then it's easy to say what you would do. Oh, well, I'm this and I'm that. You know, that's easy to say. You know, but reality sometimes changes your mind.
We, of course, you can read more about Shawn Michaels on WWE.com. There's a great interview up with him right now, and I'm sure we'll find more about what Shawn Michaels' plans are for the future coming up this week on Raw. I wanted to ask about live event business because it is down a certain percentage right now. I don't have the figures in front of me, but I do know that it is down. Why in your mind do you think that business is down? Is it a byproduct of the economy? Is it a result of the brand extension? Where do you see it fitting?
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. You know, I don't think it's any one thing. You know, I mean, just like I think that in terms of our television ratings now and/or business in general, I mean, we're not really sick. I mean, I think we have a cold or something. We don't have pneumonia, and we've been through this many, many times before. And to me, I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think the economy is part of it, but I don't want to lay the blame on the economy because, generally speaking, I don't make excuses. You know, other than the all-night gas station that opened up, and that was a Bobo Brazil, you know, analogy. You know, a million years ago, when Bobo never made an excuse for a poor house. You know, it's like, geez, Bobo, the house doesn't look so good tonight. Yeah, well, there was that all-night gas station that opened up. You know, and meaning there are no excuses. And let's face it, you know, if people want to see it, you know, somehow they'll save their money. If it's that compelling, they'll save their money and they'll come see it. I think that as far as entertainment is concerned, in our house shows, as you call them, I think we're entertaining the audiences more now than we ever have.
Right.
I think the, quote, work rate, which is a term used on the internet a lot, is excellent in all of our house shows. And so I think we've got that going for us. But, you know, with television ratings being not as high as they were before, you know, then less people are watching, which means less people are exposed to the fact that we are coming to town. I think our promotional department is doing a great job in terms of promoting our events. You know, it's just that from a creative standpoint, we haven't put the right combinations together that people want to see, you know, off the chart. They want to see it, you know, at a certain price, you know, and at in a certain amount of times per year, yes, and depending upon the market, just not quite as much as they did before.
But what happens when, from a personal standpoint, someone like Edge is now injured and made mention of the fact last night that he may not be wrestling for a while? Here's a guy who was on a roll. Here's a guy who had the charisma and finally getting the shot, and talk about having the opportunity. All of a sudden, he's got to stop. Is it easy for you, as not only the chairman of WWE, but as a fan or someone who watches your show with the passion that you do, to just put someone else in that spot, or do you feel for Edge and the guy that has to fill that spot?
Do I feel for him?
Yeah.
Well, of course. I mean, you know, we get very close to all of our superstars from a personal standpoint and professionally. So, I mean, when you feel badly for someone like that, no doubt about it. But again, it's, you know, and the career, hopefully, that he will have, it's a matter of stubbing his toe. Now, I know, I mean, being out for X number of weeks is a bummer. There's no question. For the company, for fans, for Edge himself, it's a bummer. But when you look at where he's going in terms of his career and how committed he is, you know, to excelling, this is, in the long run, going to be, you know, he stubbed his toe. So it's difficult to deal with. You know, in the long run, everything is going to be all right because of the professionalism of everyone involved. But, yeah, it's a bummer on a short-term basis. And there's no way, you can't plug somebody in, you know, into a spot. The audience won't accept that. You know, we found that out, although sometimes we're hell-bent on making the same mistakes again. You know, but we found that out years ago when in the Garden, you know, it was like, I'll never forget it. It was like the music plays, and it's this, you know, sort of jungle-type, you know, music and whatever. And we say, from the Fiji Islands, and everyone in the Garden stood up. Oh, Snuka's coming back, is what they were saying to themselves. And then we introduced Siviafi.
Right.
Siviafi, and a lot of people would say was every bit, you know, the athlete at least, you know, that Snuka was. He didn't have his charisma necessarily. And Siviafi had, like, you know, all kind of torches and everything. He was twirling around, and swords and whatever. I mean, it was like it. And the poor bastard, they booed him out, literally booed him out of the arena. And I felt so badly, you know, for Siviafi, because this was my idea, you know. So you can't plug somebody into a spot, you know, that doesn't work.
Any regrets in allowing Rock to venture into Hollywood?
Absolutely none. It's been tremendously successful for Rock, and it's opened up what is going to be a tremendous film division for us. So, you know, it's such a logical extension, as long as, again, you know, we don't do something stupid like try and go make a $100 million movie or something.
Right.
Which we're not.
Where do you see this? Where do you see this film division going? What are your plans for it? Do you want?
Well, again, I think, you know, we're about to make an announcement shortly about that, and I can tell you more about it then.
Okay.
You know, but it's going to be, you know, what you might suspect. I mean, we're going to use a lot of our talent. You know, we will venture into using in certain areas, combining with other studios, perhaps something that it's not WWE exclusive. But I think the easy way to go, obviously, is to start with some of our talents. You know, and we have an abundance of them that plug them in the right story is going to be highly entertaining.
Question from the instant feedback room: when the WWF changed to WWE, did you concede defeat to the World Wildlife Fund, or did they win? And do you think the WWE name is better than the previous WWF?
No, I like WWF. I mean, that's who we were, and we were actually WWF at one time.
As Howard Finkel will, of course, yes, easily attested.
But no, you know, it was one of those things whereby, and I haven't conceded defeat yet because it's still under appeal. But it was a way in which we could move on very quickly with who we are, and and be done with it. I mean, we've been battling these guys for such a long time, and who knows, maybe we'll ultimately win. I hope so, but nonetheless, we have to move on.
Real quick, I know you might have an instant feedback question, but we asked Roz, what he would ask you. We asked Taz what he would ask you. I personally, I'd like to ask you, just again from a personal standpoint, Reverend Devon or Brother Love?
Neither. Do I have to make a choice?
No, you don't have to. I just wondering.
I don't know. They both have a similar irritating delivery that they both would have to work on. By the time Brother Love finished telling me that he loved me,
right.
I fell asleep. It was so long. The word love has about 18 syllables in it, I guess. But and Reverend Devon has a similar problem, and he's got to get beyond that so that he makes some sense to me.
Do you see anything with Deacon Batista by his side? Do you see anything in that guy that possibly a breakout or a sleeper?
You never can tell, and again, it's all about opportunity. I don't see the Deacon staying with Devon all that long, because I think as a hungry young man, and you look at him backstage, and and so forth, you see that look in his eyes, like the first opportunity he has to make a name for himself individually, he's going to do it.
I know that over the past year, WWE has added some talent from some great names from the past, the return of Goldust, and of course Hollywood Hulk Hogan, can't mention that without saying. But there is also some developmental talents that have made the step up in Brock Lesnar and Randy Orton. Building the company forward, is the focus going to be on bringing back some veteran talent to provide some leadership for the young talent, or is it going to be taking the leap and going forward with youth to perpetuate the company on in the 21st century?
Well, I think it's a combination. Again, I think that certain individuals such as Hogan, there's a name that certainly endures generations, but I don't know if even if Hogan himself would want to compete on a weekly basis. So I think that in essence it's going to be a combination. I think that Hogan as Babe Ruth makes all the sense in the world. And many other talents like that, to be able to come back in, when the timing is right, and not have to have a steady pounding on their bodies, and the responsibility that goes with carrying a load as well. So and again, making more opportunity for the younger superstars. Guys like Hogan and whatever, they're anxious to pass the torch. They want to have someone to pass the torch to. At the same time, it's like they know they've still got something. Maybe not as much as they had at one time, but they know they have something to give the public, and the public wants that too.
If you were going to find a WWE superstar, would you look to backyards or the independent ranks, or would you look to another field of athletic endeavor?
I don't think you can, I don't think you can say I'd look in one area or another. I don't think that's fair to categorize it. Quite frankly, I'm really down on the backyard stuff, and I'm particularly perplexed as to why it would be glorified, and why something like that would be on pay-per-view, and why someone would take that. Are they that desperate for
shameful profiteers?
Well, I can't throw rocks and won't, but from a personal standpoint, I'm concerned with it, because I think that people will get the wrong idea, and if they see this on a wholesale basis, if it makes it to A&E or something like that, and it probably will, then what's going to happen is that, there are going to be more and more of this, and to the parents, I don't know that I can necessarily fault, the kids who want to do this sort of thing, because it's the next step. We all have played wrestling, in the living room or whatever. Some, if we had sisters or brothers or next door neighbors or whatever, as kids. That's a natural thing to do, to a certain extent, in terms of, swimming is not necessarily natural, but wrestling is, even if you've never seen it on television, it's what you do as a child, to a certain extent. You wrestle around, you play around. But this backyard stuff can glorify that to the extent that I'm afraid someone's really going to get hurt. And I don't know that it hasn't happened already. And it gets back to parents. Why would they allow a ring, call it a ring, it's not one of our rings, it's not safe, it's not standard. Why would they allow, their kids to, don't they understand that our performers really get hurt badly, and they're professionals? And why would you let your kid go out there and do something like this?
Right. And they didn't, well, of course, hey, we didn't know. We didn't know little Johnny was out there doing this to his brother? We didn't
sure
know.
You do. Sure you do.
Right.
I mean, you got to, don't you ever go to your backyard and see the ring that's set up?
Well, I was down there at the store, and
Right.
At the all-night gas station.
Yeah.
But for someone who wants to be a WWE superstar, from the man himself, what would you advise or recommend someone to do? How would they make that first step?
Well, I think one of the things that we're seeing is that the talent that's being developed from Tough Enough, I think, is very good. It has been, at least in the past. And I think that's certainly one source. And again, I think you have to, anyone who really wants to be in this business will make the appropriate sacrifices in the independents, or wherever, and they'll make their way. It's like, or they'll knock on your door and they just won't leave you alone until they get a tryout. I mean, and yourself, Tom, it's difficult to get in the business, even in terms of yesterday years when there were, territories, so to speak, everywhere. But it's difficult to get in. It's a closed-knit type of a fraternity, easy for me to say. But at the same time, if you really wanted to, the guy who just wouldn't let up, they get in. They get a shot. Right. So be persistent.
I think that a lot of people can, if you talk about television ratings, I look back at the company a couple of years ago when we were on the USA Network, and then the jump to TNN. Have you been satisfied with the ability of TNN to properly promote your products, and do you maybe wish you could go back and be on USA?
Well, I think there's more to just a USA versus TNN situation, because one's an apple, one's an orange. I mean, I think, it's important to realize that our company made an overall umbrella deal with Viacom. Mm-hmm. And it's not just TNN. It's TNN, it's MTV, and we already had a separate deal which Viacom owned part of UPN, now they own it all. And now it's even beyond that in terms of CBS. So, and there's a lot more in which, we with our publishing outfit, we just made a great deal with them and whatever. So, I mean, there are a lot of ties that we haven't even done yet in terms of the overall Viacom umbrella. So it's not just, okay, TNN or USA, Vince, which would you prefer to be on? You can't look at it that way.
I know back we played a mission statement that you recorded back in 1997 where speaking about good versus evil being passé and everybody being a shade of gray. Do you think that now in 2002, the resurgence of Hulkamania, that maybe now the fans want more of that return to good versus evil, or are their tastes still vary?
No, I think our audience is far more sophisticated. I think that the Hulkamania resurgence is one of, a lot of it is nostalgia. Mm-hmm. Although a lot of young people are really enjoying it, and why not? I mean, you look at Hogan, I mean, he is very charismatic, there's no denying that, and in the right set of circumstances, can appeal to almost any demographic. But I think that from a reality-based standpoint, that you have to always come back to, okay, where are you going with this? And I think that our characters don't, nor should they be, because no one in life, with the exception of yourself, no one in life is either, they're not totally good, or totally bad, all right? So I'll use myself on the other end of the analogy. I mean, there are shades of gray here, I'm not as bad as most people probably think, and I dare say even you're not quite as good as you think you are, but, that's another story. So in any event, we in life are all shades of gray, and gray. Sometimes we do things as human beings we regret. It's like, damn it, I shouldn't have done that. I'm a better person. I shouldn't have done that, Hopefully you learn from your mistakes and you go forward. Other times you're very proud of yourself. You have a good feeling inside because you did the right thing, whatever it may be, and you really feel good about that. So all of us as human beings, we run the gamut from, black to white, and we're all gray in there, in one shade or another. And that's the way really, our television needs to be. That's the way we need to portray, who our characters and the human beings behind those characters really are.
Do you see, with the rise of threats of global terrorism, a decline in international touring, or will we continue to increase our international exposure despite the changing world situations that it seems to be changing every minute?
No, I think that we will continue to increase, our global expansion and our touring. I mean, as you know, in August we're in Australia, and it's going to be an extraordinary event. Some 50,000 or whatever already that are going to be there. So I mean, you have that. I mean, I think we need to stay away from some of the troubled spots naturally of the world at the moment, because we wouldn't want to put not that our superstars wouldn't be welcome there, because I think from a multicultural, multi-language concept, I think that, the one thing that could bring, the Arabs and the Jews together would be a World Wrestling Federation event, World Wrestling Entertainment event, pardon me.
Yeah.
And someone saying, "Oh my God, did he just say that?" Yeah, I did. Because again, I think, people from all walks of life, different nationalities, different cultures, all enjoy what we do. We're the greatest, I've said before, we're one, if not the greatest export, entertainment-wise, America offers. So we could go there. I wouldn't want to, jeopardize the safety of our performers and promoters and that sort of stuff. But I see us continuing to expand.
I know that, Tom, a lot of times we've spoken about the continued rise in wrestling content within the show. It seems like over the past couple of weeks, Tom and I noted that there has been some great matches. When you talk about the ladder match with Eddie Guerrero, Rob Van Dam a couple of weeks ago on Raw, and the efforts that were given forth just last night on SmackDown. The balance in time, in your mind, between in-ring content, backstage content, where do you see it now? Are we moving back more towards the ring?
I don't think you're moving in any direction, except hopefully the direction you're moving in is it's good. A lot of times people complain, there's too much backstage stuff. That's not what they're saying, because if it's really good backstage stuff, sometimes that's more compelling than the action in the ring, if it's really good. So, and sometimes obviously a great match in the ring is far more compelling than anything you can do backstage. So I think really what people are saying is they want everything that we do to be better. And I don't think there is necessarily, a formulaic balance. All right, we're going to have 30% of the airtime is going to be from backstage. We're going to change that from 40% to, nah, we don't do that. Don't subscribe to the formulaic way of doing business. Listen to our audience and try and make it better.
Do you, have you harbored any ideas at any time since he has left the company of bringing Vince Russo back to World Wrestling Entertainment?
No, I haven't even thought about it. Again, we have an open door policy here. I think Hulk Hogan proves that.
Yep.
But it all depends. Everything depends in this world. And I don't know that I would never say never to any situation that hasn't come up, though.
Right. And again, there's another situation I think that has been on the internet as of late. And I just returned this morning from our developmental program in Louisville and of course Cincinnati. There was a situation this past week involving Jim Cornette and another writer that was here, Ed Ferrara.
Sure.
Of course, I've known Jimmy for over 20 years. He worked up here with you, and I don't think you can deny his passion or his work ethic as well. Do you feel that something like that, do you feel the animosity, or do you feel anything the same way Jim Cornette would towards this guy, or would Ed Ferrara be welcome back as well? I mean, he made fun of JR. This is the reason Jim, of course, has these personal feelings, and went in and pretty much stood up to the guy and told him, go to hell.
Right. Everyone's entitled to an opinion.
Yes.
When that opinion goes beyond an opinion, and it results in physicality, results in spitting in somebody's face, as it allegedly happened. I don't know. I wasn't there. That's unprofessional. So, no one can appreciate Cornette's passion for the, quote, business any more than I do. I appreciate that. I don't know that Ed Ferrara didn't have it either. I just thought it was a very unprofessional situation.
Yeah. And I know that a lot of people wonder if do you ever have any regrets about going the direction that you did several years ago about having Russo and Ferrara in power here in this company? And it's not in power, but in the writing role that they were in.
No. I think what happened was that they thought that they could do the same, have the same impact working with our team. And as you guys know, this is a team effort.
Yeah.
It's not one man's vision. It's not one man's dictate or whatever. This is a huge team, and it's a collaborative effort on everyone's part. And no one individual, no matter, Vince McMahon or not, no one individual really makes the difference. It's the team that makes the difference. And I think that's probably what Russo and Ferrara found out when they went down to Turner. They had no team. They had no infrastructure. It was just them. That's scary.
Do you have any views or opinions on the new NWA TNA, which Ed Ferrara, I believe, will be running?
I don't have any views on it because I haven't seen it yet. Again, I think it's unusual. It's a very unusual approach, very novel approach. But I don't know how you promote. That's when they have no promotional vehicle. Then I don't know how they promote. I mean, I have no idea whether or not they're selling tickets in Huntsville, I think it is,
Right.
or they're not. And if they're not selling tickets in Huntsville, you know, so if they are, fine. But I don't know how you promote without having some sort of platform, you know, to promote. And if you just simply are promoting to that narrow-casted pay-per-view audience, that's difficult to do. So, and again, it's a 2-hour show, and people are expected to pay $9.95 for it. You can watch, hopefully, I dare say, comparing the production value and the caliber of talent and everything of their show to one of ours. Hopefully, I mean, and I don't know this because I'm anxious to see it like everybody else. Right. You know, but it's difficult to ask a consumer to pay $9.95 for a 2-hour show when you can see one on Monday night and you can see one on Thursday night. So I don't know, unless they are so unique, you know, in their format or something you can't see on a Monday or a Thursday, which it may be. You know, I mean, again, it's like this is all supposition because none of us have seen it. They haven't had their first show yet.
Well,
but it's a very novel approach. Let me say that.
I want to know if the most outspoken critic, perhaps, of the Tommy Dreamer segments is one Gerald Briscoe. Is he perhaps more offended by that than anybody else? Because every time I see Dreamer on Raw, I first think of Mr. Briscoe.
Well, Gerald has a very weak stomach. Doesn't have a weak heart, though.
No. And I'm sure that Mr. Briscoe enjoys Tommy Dreamer's performances, just like we all do.
I'm sure he enjoys it, especially when he walks back from the curtain, and that the vomit segment this past week, I'm sure, was his favorite. Yeah.
Well, Vince, anything else that we're very happy that we had the time with you here?
Sure you are.
Well, really, seriously.
Right, you convinced me when I came on.
That's not true at all. We enjoyed having you on.
Great.
It's been great. Tom has been looking forward to it all week.
All week? Yes, sir, I have.
Big Country?
What's the name of that program you're on, the Weight Watchers? Is it Weight Watchers, or is it?
No, it's a different kind of, it's a seafood diet.
Ah, the seafood diet.
I like shellfish and steak and chicken and
right.
working on it.
Good.
I'm like Howard. I'm going to turn, this is it. I'm going to make a switch.
I've enjoyed it, guys. Thanks.
Thank you very much. You know,
Very
today,
good.
of course, was the 3-year anniversary of a momentous occasion in the then World Wrestling Federation. It was a trivia question earlier today in the I Want to Be contest, and you can check it out right now. 3 years ago today, this man right here to my left was announcing himself as the higher power. So take a look at this and relive some great memories and enjoy the rest of the weekend, everybody. Don't forget, Velocity Confidential, of course, this Saturday night. Find out more about everything that's going on, Toughen Up 2, all the controversy there, and exclusive comments about The Rock's future as well. That's on Confidential. Thank you again, Mr. McMahon.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. So we leave you with this, and we'll have Chris Benoit as our very special guest next week on Byte This.
That he has arrived